Hi everyone, Janie here. Welcome back to my garden. So it is early morning in this mid to late summer day, and that is because it has been so hot here that I cannot handle being outside later on in the afternoon. I have to come out and do all my gardening early in the morning while it is still cool. We have been going through heat wave after heat wave, triple-digit temperatures, and I know those of you in the rest of the United States are going through the same thing. Quite a bit of a heat wave this summer. So I thought today would be a great day to talk about 5 plants that I have in my garden that are heat tolerant, and I would say laugh in the face of the burning hot sun. They can handle the heat and they can just keep going. So the first plant I wanted to share with you all that is doing really well in the triple-digit temperatures we've been having in California is my Texas primrose. Now I have Ladybird Sunglow Callilopis from Proven Winners. Again, that is a Texas primrose. It is a gorgeous fringy plant. The leaves are very fringy and thin, which makes it heat and drought tolerant, and it has these bright, beautiful yellow blooms. And the thing that I love about this plant is that it has been blooming since I planted it, and it has bloomed non-stop throughout the season. The heat is not bothering it at all. Texas primrose likes full sun, so again, it can handle the hottest part of your yard, and really the hottest and driest part of your yard. It is drought tolerant, and actually the one thing that you can do to harm this plant and make it not thrive is actually love it too much, give it too much water. So you can put this plant in the hottest, driest part of your garden and it is going to be happy. Ladybird Sunglow Callilopis gets about 8 inches tall and up to 20 inches wide, and I've definitely noticed that in my garden. It's kind of a sprawler, and I think it looks really pretty hanging over the ledge. So if you put it kind of at the edge of a bed, I have mine kind of on a raised bed where the yellow blooms are kind of spilling over the edge, and I just think it is so pretty. The next plant I want to talk about, I'm sure those of you who've watched me before have heard me talk about this plant, but I just think it deserves a mention all the time. That is Helen Stein Lamb's Ear. Helen Stein Lamb's Ear is a large leaf version of the classic Lamb's Ear silver carpet. The reason why Helen Stein Lamb's Ear and Lamb's Ear in general does so well with the heat is because the fuzzy silvery foliage acts like a sunshade or an umbrella for the plant. So the fuzziness of the foliage actually shades the plant, and it makes it so it can handle the hot weather so much easier as compared to another plant that doesn't have that fuzzy foliage. Helen Stein Lamb's Ear is hardy zones 4 through 9, and it likes full sun to part sun, although I've noticed that mine do so much better in full sun. This plant is grown more for the foliage rather than for the blooms. There are bloom stalks that come up when the plant is really happy. I just like to cut those off. I don't like to deal with them. I don't think they're very pretty, although the pollinators really do love them. So if you like how they look, by all means, leave them on. The next plant that I think laughs in the face of triple-digit temperatures is Perennial Hibiscus, otherwise known as rose mallow, and you all might be familiar with it as Summerific Hibiscus from Proven Winners. This gorgeous tropical looking plant is so fantastic in the dog days of summer. It's one of the last plants to come out of dormancy, so you do have to be patient for this plant, but it is just such a welcome pop of color during these days when it's so hot, and I just think that the bright hibiscus blooms it just becomes a focal point in my summer garden. Perennial hibiscus like the hot weather. Again, they are going to shine during the summer. However, they are not drought tolerant. They are what you would call a bog plant. And you would think, why would someone like me who lives in dry, hot California want a bog type of plant? Well, I just want to remind you all, those of you that have lawns, during the hot summer, we have to water our lawns probably more than we like to keep them green. So whenever you plant plants surrounding your lawns or on the edge of your lawns, those plants are actually going to get more water than you would think. So a lot of times people have overspray from lawns, and it's a hard time finding a plant that likes the heat and can handle that much water. And Summerific Hibiscus or rose mallow can handle those conditions. So you want to keep this plant constantly moist. You don't want to let it dry out, but that's kind of the same thing for your lawn. So if you just plant it near your lawn, then you're going to use whatever overspray that you cannot control, you're going to use that to water this plant, which is really great. This plant is zones 4 through 9. It acts as a perennial for all those zones, and you don't want to cut the stems back until the spring. You want to leave those woody stems up. Then when the early spring comes, you can cut them back and then give it some time, but the new plant will come straight from the ground. They actually won't come from those woody old stems from the year before. They like full sun to part sun, although I noticed I've had them in both full sun and part sun. I've noticed that my Summerific Hibiscus really like full sun and does so much better in full sun. The variety that I have in my garden is called Berry Awesome, and it is so incredibly beautiful. It is this bright fuchsia Barbie pink color that I love. But there are also so many more colors of this plant that you can choose from to get it to fit the colors in your garden. There's a range of how tall and wide these plants will get, but on average is about 4 feet tall to 5 feet wide. Now there is something that I want to tell you all about Summerific Hibiscus and rose mallow in general. When you are shopping for a rose mallow or a perennial hibiscus, you need to know whether the plant you are purchasing is determinate or indeterminate, just like tomatoes. So when you purchase a determinate rose mallow, what that means is the plant will grow to its full height before it sets blooms on the tips of its branches, and then it's just going to bloom on the outside, and that's it. When you purchase an indeterminate rose mallow, what that means is it's going to set blooms all along the stems as it's growing. And so that means you're going to get a longer amount of time that you're going to have those blooms on that plant. So whenever you're looking for a rose mallow or perennial hibiscus, make sure you check the tag to figure out if it's determinate or indeterminate. To make it easy, all of the proven winners, Summerific Hibiscus, are indeterminate. So you know they're going to bloom for a very long time during the hot weather. Next plant that I have to mention that does great in the hot weather is Lantana. And I like the Luscious Lantana series from Proven Winners. They come in a variety of colors that are so beautiful. They come in nice little compact mounds as opposed to the old kind of Lantana that kind of goes everywhere. And they are so tolerant to heat. And the reason why Lantana is so tolerant to heat is because the stoma, the little pores on leaves that evaporates and helps with photosynthesis, all of those stoma are actually on the underside of the leaves in Lantana. So that means when the hot sun is beating down on the leaves of the Lantana, not as much evaporation of the precious water is happening because the plant is actually shading itself by having the stoma on the underside of its leaves. That means a drought-tolerant, heat-tolerant plant for us. Average size for Lantana is about 2 to 4 feet wide. Now that is for the Luscious Lantana series. Like I said, they're much more compact than the old kind of Lantana that can kind of get everywhere, especially if you grow Lantana where it is perennial. Lantana is hardy zones 9 through 11. So that means it is a perennial here for me in California, zone 9B. A lot of people grow Lantana for annuals though in lower zones, and even as an annual, it can get up to 4 feet wide. When it's a perennial, it can get even taller if you don't prune it back during the winter or early spring. Now, something I have to point out, sometimes Lantana can be invasive, specifically in the south where it's hot all summer long, and it's humid, and even in the winter it never really gets cold enough to kind of kill off the tops of lantana like it does here for us in California. So if you live in an area where lantana can be a bit invasive, you have to be aware of what type of lantana you are purchasing. When you purchase Proven Winners Luscious Lantana series, you know that those lantana are specifically bred for little to no seed set. So that means they're not going to reseed, it's not going to spread, and it's not going to get invasive in your garden. All right, finally, the last plant I want to talk to you all about for heat-tolerant plants is a new one to me this year, but it is climbing my list of some of my favorites, and that is Scavola, otherwise known as fan flower. Scavola does well in full to part sun, and it is hardy zones 10 through 11. So here it's technically an annual, but I think it is an important annual for us because it has thick stems which keep it tolerant to the heat and drought tolerant, meaning the hot triple-digit temperatures is not going to make it suffer because the thick stems are going to protect the precious water that that plant has inside its cells. Scavola does fantastic in landscapes as well as pots and even hanging baskets because it can handle drying out a little bit. Actually, the worst thing you can do with Scavola is, like the Calilophus, love it too much and give it too much water. That's when it's not going to be happy. So it's okay if it dries out a little bit, and it actually loves the heat and loves the triple-digit temperatures. So Scavola is a fantastic plant for those of us that have really, really hot summers. On average, this plant gets about 1 foot tall, 1 foot wide, really cute, compact. It comes in purples, blues, whites, and pinks, and it's so beautiful in the garden, and I cannot wait to add more Scavola into my garden next year for these hot dog days of summer. So I hope this was helpful for all of you. I think a lot of times we plan our gardens during the winter or during the early spring, and we're not really thinking about later on in the year as it gets to triple digits and it gets hot for days and days and days on end. I think it's important to think about that and think about what plants are going to do really well, not only in the spring, but also in the really hot days of summer. So let's just think about this next season when we're planting our gardens. Make sure you add in a couple of these plants that can handle the heat. So I hope you all enjoyed this. I hope this was helpful, and I hope you all have a chance to get in your garden today.